Then you hear for the 10 seconds, and caught me, knocked me out.
That was it.
Boom! Got me.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, oh, shit. I looked at it, I was like, 150,000 views. I was like, what is this? What's going on? And next morning I woke up, it had almost 600-something thousand views. And then that evening it had 1 million views.
Yo, you were great at 15-0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I could have stopped there.
Welcome back for another episode of the Wealthy Creator Podcast. Today, I have a very interesting guest. For anybody that's already viewed this podcast and as listening to this podcast, it's going to be something different today, something a little more interesting and more fun. But I'm not going to hold it up. Without further ado, let me introduce David Nino Rodriguez. How are you, brother?
Hey, thank you.
Pleasure to meet you, man. We connected just today, and we kind of get some of the story out. But I think what's interesting about your story is that it's that redemption, it's that get back story, right? And so I'm not gonna hold you up. I want you to kind of tell your story and just give me the start of everything.
Well, I mean, I wrote a book on it, When the Lights Go Out, and it's available on Amazon. Everybody,
that'll be down in that link below too. Make sure you all get it.
When the Lights Go Out. So basically, I was a undefeated prospect, heavyweight boxing. Started boxing at 5 years old. Was bullied a lot as a kid. Those type of stories. Grew up on the border. Spent a lot of time in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. Saw things there that people read about today that are like, it's really, really crazy. Mm-hmm. But that's how I grew up, and a very machismo town, El Paso, and just grew up fighting. Next thing you know, I'm fighting amateur at the age of about 13. Wow. Knocked out the junior Olympic champion, my very first fight, which was unheard of. Wow. No, this guy came in to pat his record and ran into my left hook, and that was it. And that's when I knew, like, now I'm gonna, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. It was a great, illustrious career. I had my peak. I was 36-0, 34 knockouts with 24 in the first round. Jeez. Nobody surpassed that knockout ratio yet, that first round knockouts.
So you still hold that record?
Yeah. Actually, it's 25 first round knockouts at the end of my career. So, so no one has yet to beat that.
That's a tough one to beat.
Yeah.
Man.
And so I had a very great, amazing career. I was basically juggling extremes. So I was not only boxing and fighting and doing that, and I was going into training camp for 2-3 months at a time and training. Like, I really was training hard and knock out the women, knock out the alcohol. And it was right after the fight that I didn't think I had a problem because I was able to stop, but I would come back into the locker room and make sure that I had a bottle of tequila there and an 18-pack of beer, and I would get started. And that wouldn't end. That would go for a whole month.
Let me ask you, you think that's something that is common to fighters? Or was it solo to you would say?
No, it's common. A lot of fighters are self-destructive, man. And
I could see that, right? Like, I look at, like, how much discipline it takes to prepare and be ready for that war. And so I would assume that is a tough thing to deal with.
For me, what was really tough is what I did. So my craft was, I was knocking people out so easy. It was getting scary because I was like, oh man, like, now the expectations kept building and building and building. And I was not ready for that. Mm-hmm. I was never ready for that. And I don't think anybody really could be. And I was like, Mexican descent, I was a heavyweight. It was almost like the Great White Hope, or the Great Mexican Hope.
Yeah, what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of pride behind it, right?
There's a lot of that
community alone,
and a lot of people were putting a lot of expectations on me, and I was feeling it. Mm-hmm. And I honestly, after a while, I started noticing I was trying to find a way out, and I couldn't take it anymore. Mm-hmm. It was just getting way too much pressure, and it's one thing from the hometown, they're always having the write-ups about me in El Paso newspapers, stuff like that. But it's another, like, the boxing community starts chiming in. You get your critics. You always have your critics. But I would take it very personal. And the drinking was my escape. So
how old were you, you say, when you, like, because you said you started like 13.
Yeah.
So around what time did that, start being an issue for you?
When I started training pro, it was all fun. When I was just knocking everybody out, when I was like 10-0, 15-0. Yeah. It was fun. And it's like, it was right when I hit like 26, 27 years old that I started feeling the pressure. Okay. And especially at 30 when I won like the NABA championship belt and I now was like in the top 10 and like everything was like really taking off for me. I was like, man, dude, like I don't know. I just felt all these expectations. A lot of fighters, some fighters can deal with it. Some cannot. I just felt like for me, it was just weighing heavy because I would see a guy that, and I would say, okay, so Robert Davis, let's say, or Owen Beck or somebody like that, Don King's guy. I would see someone who knocked him out, and I would say, I got to do it before him. I got to knock this guy out in the first 3 or 4. I mean, that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
And I kept putting those expectations on myself, which was stupid. Like, I don't know why, instead of just boxing and the knockout comes, I started putting these false, ridiculous expectations on myself that were unattainable. Well, I achieved them, but it destroyed me outside the ring. So outside the ring, I just started drinking more and started doing blow every now and then, doing coke every now and then, started doing Molly, started doing this, started doing that. And the next thing you know, I'm like a mess.
Yeah, it was just all for an escape. From that,
complete 100% escape.
Yeah. No, I think that's a common thing with just athletes, especially at a high level. I never made it high level. I played college ball, but I even can remember watching some other like teammates go through that same pressure of just school and sports, right? Like dealing with some of that same stuff. And, you know, anybody that's been to college, they know like drinking is just a part of the lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just a big part of the lifestyle. Yeah. And I could remember days where we would go out on a Thursday night and then practice on Friday. And you can just smell the alcohol like coming out of us, right? Like, and every so often the coach will realize that he'll run you till you throw up. But it was like that was a real thing. Like that was just a part of the culture of the sports world. And so I can't even imagine at an elite level the type of things that you have to deal with.
I feel personally that it started much younger. I started drinking at 13.
Yeah.
So I was going to my friends. He grew up with me. We were going to Juarez at like 13 years, and I was stealing my dad's car and driving it over the bridge into Mexico and partying there. You know, like that was just like a country to our disposal.
Yeah. A
whole other country, and I'd get arrested, get in fights, get thrown in jail, give the cop $50, you're out. You know what I mean? It was ridiculous. It was a Wild West over there. Those are stories that I need to write another book about. Like,
right.
Yeah, and that was insanity. So basically, we were going to bars and clubs. 14 years old, 13, 14, 15, they don't check your ID. They don't care. They just give you whatever you want. And it was $5 drink and drown. So you'll go to a club and like pay $5 and you get drunk all night.
Yeah.
You know? So when you're raised in that kind of culture, how do you really, that's the answer for everything, drinking, you know? So for me, oh, by the way, and I am 3 years and 8 months sober now.
Amazing. Congratulations.
So there is, I'm not still doing it. So people are probably wondering, like, dude's hardcore.
What you got down here, man? What's in that bottle there? No, I get it. And I think like, you know, even for me, like I have 2 sons.
Okay.
For me, it's exposure. Like this is their first week of school, back to school. And we're actually sending our 2-year-old to like a daycare school type of deal. Yeah. And I was like, man, he's getting ready to be exposed to stuff that I don't know that I'm ready for him to be exposed to, you know? And so like, I can totally relate to like, you know, some of the things that you're exposed to early do translate. And some of them come out even further. Like they reveal themselves even more the older you get.
Right.
And so that's a really interesting story. When do you feel like you kind of had that shift and that turn away from it?
Man, this isn't be great. This is just, I'm 3 years, 8 months sober. So then.
Yeah.
So once I quit drinking and changed my life, everything changed.
Wow.
Everything changed. So when I was 36 and 0, I'm just gonna go to the story real quick where I was in Arizona and I was walking out of a club and I got ambushed by a bunch of dudes that came behind me and slit my throat. I guess now I can show it on the camera. Like you can see it. Yeah. This is 369 stitches.
Jeez.
I mean, my neck was open. I was bleeding out. I was done. And then my friend got stabbed too. So, but he got stabbed in the arm. But I remember even when he got stabbed, he was looking at me like he couldn't believe what happened to me. And I was like, I was getting lightheaded. I was like, I'm out. I'm gone.
And you were still fighting at this time too?
Yeah, at the time I was 36 and I was undefeated.
Okay, this was it.
And it was after that, you know, when I remember got put in the ambulance, I was fading in and out of consciousness and the paramedics were dropping I just remember the paramedics dropping all the syringes and they were panicking. And I just remember telling them, I was like, hey guys, because all my blood was on them. Mm-hmm. Like all my blood was on these guys. And the only thing that came to my mind is like a peace, calmness.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, hey guys, I was like, just please, I'm clean. I'm clean, man. Don't worry. And they all kind of got this sense of relief. Like, that's what I said. Like I looked at them and told them, hey, I'm clean. Like, don't worry. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I lost consciousness. I don't remember anything from there.
Yeah.
And then I woke up a day later, was stitched up, 369 stitches. And the cosmetic surgeon was on call that night. That just happened to be on call that night. That basically looked at my case and just came and said he took it because it was a challenge for him. Thank you. But and then I it took about 6 months off, and I was a mess. I was a mess. I was still partying. I didn't stop.
Really?
No, dude.
Wow.
I was still going.
Wow.
And then decided to the WBC put me on leave, a medical leave. So they were like, just basically tell me, just get a tune up.
Yeah.
And we'll get you right back in the top 10.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right.
And
I get back in. I come to Vegas. I start training out here with Mayweather's trainer, Rafael Garcia. He starts working with me. We're working together. And then I was just a head case, dude. Like I was not there. I started training for a guy that was 6'9". I was going to fight a guy that was 6'9", and I'm training for that. I'm sparring those type of guys in the gym. Last 8 days before the fight, they switch out the opponent on me. And they bring in a guy that's 5'10", spark plugged like a Mike Tyson.
Oh, man.
And I took it. I said, I wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
I just said, let's go.
Yeah.
I go, let's go. I'm already gone this far. And it was in Atlantic City. We fought our hearts out, man. It was a fight of the year. It was on NBC Wide World of Sports on a main events card. And I remember that we're fighting, and I'm a bloody mess. My orbital bone's broken and shattered. I mean, he shattered me in the first round and broke my whole face.
Jeez.
And I'm still going.
Yeah,
I'm edging out the fight, bro. Barely edging out this fight. And then you hear for the 10 seconds, and caught me, knocked me out.
That was it.
Boom! Got me.
Oh, man.
And I mean, it was like, I just wake up, and I'm waking up off the canvas, and I see him jumping up and down.
You know what it is.
And I'm like, oh, shit.
It happened.
Bro, this fucking happened. And this was worse to me than getting knifed in the throat. This, to me, was worse.
Yeah, it felt worse.
Way worse.
Yeah, that's tough. Like, that story is chilling, one, because it speaks to you're trying to work your way back, right? And outside of everything that you're dealing with, outside of the ring, you're dealing with trying to just get back physically and
demons, dude.
Yeah,
demons.
yeah,
and
that's extremely tough. And then to wake up and see that, you're like, it just happened, and you're kind of, oh man, like,
and
that's the tough one.
And I knew right then it was over.
Yeah,
like this ain't something you don't go to like 36-0, and you got to carry that until you get to the heavyweight championship of the world.
Yeah.
You can't just lose, because now you no longer have that aura.
Yeah,
you no longer have that undefeated stigma. You're now the guy that lost. You're now a bum. You went from hero to zero like that.
Yeah.
And my whole world just got nuked.
Yeah. Boxing's brutal, man. It's a tough one, and I still believe that, like, even those that are doing it at an elite level, what they have to deal with to get to that point. Because I'm like, you were great at 15-0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I should have stopped there. I should have stopped when I was ahead.
You know what I mean? Like, and now you're 36-0, and then all, like you just said, like it can all be shifted from one loss.
And nobody ever looks at your past record. They just look at your last fight.
Yeah.
And they're like, he's a bum.
Yeah.
And seriously, that's how they look at it. Everybody. It's not like that in MMA, dude.
In any other sport.
No,
like,
it's only boxing.
Yeah.
Only boxing do you lose, and that's forever tainted.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Any other sport, it's not like that.
Yeah, that's brutal. I want to get into a little bit of the psychology behind promotion. Okay, so like, I'm a casual boxing fan. Like, I watch the big fights. I don't necessarily care for the other ones, right? I like to see, but I'm also looking from a different lens, right? I look at how people promote. Obviously, working with Wealth Creator, working with Ryan Pineda, a big part of what we do is use our influence to grow business.
Okay.
And so I look at it on how somebody presents, right? Like, there's fighters, like, Canelo's one of the best to do it. But promotion to me
who's doing it better than him right now? Jake Paul.
Yeah. But
because
of the promotion, right? Like, how you draw in determines what type of response you get. And so,
correct.
I want to hear from you, like, outside of the individuals doing it now, how did you go about promoting yourself and kind of,
I was always,
other than knocking everybody out,
of
course.
Well, no, for me, it was like, I fought a lot in my hometown. I fought in Mexico. So I always brought a big crowd.
Okay.
And so I fought on some of the De La Hoya's promotions and things like that. Really, then it was really to sell a fight. Like for me, like it was always very stressful because I always had to train and I'm getting ready for a fight. And then you have to think about promoting, doing open workouts, doing press conferences, going to the weigh-in. Dude, all you want to do, you want to conserve your energy because you're just so tired, stressed out, tired. Adrenaline's going through your body. You don't want to have to sell the popcorn and none of that, dude. You just want to be focused on the fight. So that was always very hard. That's the promoter's job.
Right.
So back then, like, okay, so I retired at 2015.
Okay.
So social media was not where it is now.
Yeah.
So that's why, so when I was fighting, it's a whole different game.
Yeah, yeah.
It was TV and radio, dude, and some at Facebook.
Yeah.
Now, Jake Paul, I call it the Jake Paul experiment, would have never happened back then. Those dudes, the commission would never allow it. Yeah. They wouldn't sanction those fights, dude. What he's doing now is really the first because we've never seen this before in the sport.
So it's
never before.
So when he says I changed the sport
like that,
when he says I changed the sport, he actually changed the sport.
Look at bro, I give him
that's from a professional boxer.
I'm going to tell you this right now. He's changing the sport because that's never happened before. But I look at it like this. I don't know if you remember back in the day, Butterbean.
Yes.
Remember? Okay, Butterbean.
A video game, but
so you remember like there's boxing and then there was Butterbean boxing, right? Where he's just knocking out fools in the first round and like king of 4-rounders. It was a show.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I look at Jake Paul. He's the show.
Gotcha.
As a real fighter, he's a C or D fighter.
Okay.
But he could handpick guys out of MMA like Nate and all them and then bring them into the boxing ring and win and knock them out or go to because he's cherry picking them. But the fact that the commission is letting him do that blows me away. Yeah. Like that shows me that the sport is changing rapidly. Yeah. And so there's the real sport of boxing, and then there's the circus. Yeah. He's the circus, unfortunately. Now he's saying that he wants to, I'm going to be a world champion in a few years. I'm like, no,
that was my next question. That was my next
not.
question. Will he ever get a shot at that?
Dude, I mean, I've seen stranger things, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So could he? Now, like I said, I rate him a C, or a D fighter. But could he get better and improve? Yes. Yeah. And could it actually happen? Well, dude, if he keeps winning but still, he's going to have to step into the ranks of the top 30, top 20.
Yeah.
And then that's where he's going to get tested. So you can say all you want about being a world champion right now, but you still have not even fought you lost against Tommy Fury, dude.
Yeah, you haven't fought it.
You know?
Yeah, I think when I ask that question about will he get that shot, it is more for me about how much of promotion and money outweighs the actual talent of the boxer. Bro,
we're in uncharted waters. I don't know. I can't really even answer that because this is something I've never seen before. The Jake Paul experiment is really, this is something no one's ever seen.
Yeah.
Let's see what he does. I don't know, man. I don't know what they're going to let him get away with.
Yeah, because I've learned something in just what I'm doing in this space. I've learned that the best product doesn't necessarily win.
Right.
The best marketer wins.
Right. And look, this is also, like I just said, in my day, I retired in 2015.
Yeah. Social
media is not where it is at right now.
Yeah.
So this is a whole new animal, dude. This is something that's never been seen before. Social media, dude, no one's going to have a television set in their house anymore. Look in the next few years.
No,
you know
if it's in there, it's not on. Yeah.
It's not on. It's over. So this is new. And this dude's he's pioneering a whole new, basically a whole new spectacle that no one's ever seen. Like I've never seen this in boxing. And that he's being allowed to handpick MMA guys out of it. First of all, MMA guys are not boxers.
Right.
They're strikers. That's a big difference. Boxing, you have to have ring generalship. You got to know the ring. You got to have. Nate Diaz was probably the closest to being a real fighter, real boxer, because he spars with other boxers. But the fact that he's just the commission's allowing him as a professional boxer to handpick guys out of another sport and bring them into our sport. And then just knock him out and beat him. Yeah. I've never seen it. That's just the dude has it made. I'm going to tell you this right now. He's got it made.
Yeah, and I give credit to that too, to Mayweather and McGregor, right? Like they sold that fight, right? Like I didn't think for 1 second McGregor would win.
No,
but I just knew that. Yeah, you wanted to see it, right? Like,
you're right. They were the first, I guess. Yeah, like that was the first.
But those two individuals were already elite in their sport. Like to see Jake come into this,
yes,
right? And so it's really interesting. And
blows me away, man.
Yeah, and I think for individuals, like I don't care if you like them or not. I don't care if you're entertained by it or you're not a boxing fan or you are a boxing fan. You should pay close attention to his tactics. right?
100%. I agree
He
with
knows
that.
what he's doing
Yeah,
when
he
it comes to
does.
it, which is why he was really good in the YouTube space. He was really good at the content creation. It was because he knew how to garner attention.
Yeah.
Which is, a big part of the game that
he knew how to make a big bang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if people can implement that in their businesses,
yeah, you're right.
they will see instant results. And so, it's really key. Like, it's a big thing to pay attention to what those guys are doing over there.
You're right. And so that's why I'm going to say, like, this is going to be very interesting to pay attention to see what he does, see how he does this. I mean, he's already making way more. Bro, world champions don't make this money that this kid's making.
Especially, not even just boxing, but MMA fighters definitely don't make.
But so you got to, so really what he's doing, so he garnered a huge social media audience and turned that into money, into a sport. And what are they going to say? No.
Right.
He's putting asses in the seats.
Yeah.
So I give him a lot of props. And he really is, and I got to give him credit where credit's due. He really is a hard-working athlete. He's not like a pushover.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's not. Just because I say he's about a C or D boxer.
Yeah, but we're talking to somebody that's 36-0.
Right.
So that's a little different from somebody that's just.
And this is a guy that just kind of started because so most fighters like myself, we started at 5 years old.
Yeah.
This dude's just kind of going into it, and he beat Nate. I mean. And Nate, I've sparred Nate here in Vegas. I've sparred with him and Nick.
Okay.
And I didn't throw punches back. I was working my defense, but I felt Nate's power.
Yeah.
And I actually thought to myself, I was like, this is going to be a test for Jake. I expected Jake to win because he's more technical.
Yeah.
He's more tech savvy. He's going to be more technically sound.
Yeah.
But I knew Nate was going to give him a hell of a fight. It was going to be a run for his money, but I didn't think, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think it was going to go all the way, dog. I didn't think it was going to go all the way. The fact that it did, I'm like, wow. Like, that says something for Nate.
Yeah, it was impressive. It was impressive on both sides. I think, like, it showed the showmanship of Nate, but it also showed the heart of Jake, right?
Yeah,
like,
but
he hadn't gone that long.
A tough dude. But do you see how relaxed Nate is in the ring?
But I mean, I've seen him take kicks to the head. And so, like, I wasn't really that. I was like, yeah, he can do that. Like,
but when did he get dropped?
Yeah.
He got dropped by Jake.
Yeah.
So that tells you.
So it speaks to the talent on both ends, man. It was really impressive. But so I want to move on to your content and your creation process, right? So I know you have about 275 or so thousand on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. I think when I checked it was about 18K on Rumble.
No, on Rumble it's at 60-something thousand.
Oh, 60,000 now. Okay, maybe that was an old stat. But yeah, I think that, like, and then you also have your own platform,
I
right?
also have Nino's Corner.tv.
Yeah, I think because I was doing my little research.
Yeah.
And Roseanne popped up. And I was like, oh, this guy's
good.
talking to Roseanne.
Yeah.
And so that was really interesting to me. Yeah. But I wanted to, before we get into like the YouTube and things, I want to get into your own, Nino's Corner.tv is what it is, right? Tell me a little bit, because that is behind a paywall. And so how does that work for you?
So that's the fringe content. So there was a huge purge that happened after the election, the Biden election and all that. And it was a big purge that all conservatives were getting dropped. They were just purging us. Okay. I was able to stand the test of time because I knew AI was tracking everything. So I just started using different words. Like I didn't talk about, I mean, I guess is this going on YouTube?
It's going to be on YouTube.
Okay. So I would point to here for the shot.
Okay.
Right?
I call her Maxine.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So, so I would make up different words.
Yeah.
And then I would use different words to dance around.
Okay.
Bob and weave, dude. Yeah. From the words I knew that would get me blasted or striked and then taken off the platform. Okay. So I just danced and moved. And then basically what happened was the material that I was talking about was very sensitive. Okay. And I was having a lot of people on my shows that were giving a lot of valuable, pertinent information that I could not put on YouTube. There's no way. Okay. So I created my own .tv. And I put all the fringe stuff. So I would just tell people, listen, if you want to hear more, go to the .tv because I can't say it on YouTube. Yeah. YouTube wouldn't allow me to say it. And not even Rumble. There's been 4 videos I tried to put on Rumble that they did just not uploaded.
Really? I thought they were usually a little bit freer.
No, when I put on my titles and what I was putting on there, they was not getting on there. Oh, so the .tv was my safe space, basically. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of funneled everyone to there. And it worked out very well. But so basically YouTube for me is like I do my morning shows Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Okay. I put the occasional interview on there if I knew it's going to be G-rated,
A little bit
PG,
cleaner,
30,
yeah.
Roseanne Barr, something like that. She knows how to play it safe on YouTube.
Yeah, she's a pro.
Yeah, and
Sometimes.
so yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah, depending on what she's feeling that day, dude.
Yeah.
So I just had her on, but that was clean enough to put on YouTube. But then now I have a whole editing team and everything that does everything for me, that edits it out
nice.
and all the crazy stuff.
They catch it, huh?
Yeah. And so, but all the fringe stuff, like people that I have like are in 3-letter agencies, like giving me the backstory of what's going on here, going on there. I put that on Nino's Corner.tv. That's a fringe content. Basically, what that is, I dive deep into the underbelly of the deep state.
Gotcha.
So we're going all in with the war that's going on right now within the government.
Okay.
And it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. So to me, I went from playing in the sandbox, boxing, to like 5th dimensional chess.
Really?
Yeah. Like what I'm doing now
straight in.
is a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Like this is the only way, dude, that I've been able to take myself out of boxing and not even think about it anymore.
Oh, wow.
Because now I'm like in this. I have generals coming on my program that are like giving me the scoop of what's going on, and it's been amazing. It's been fascinating. Like there's a war people are not even acknowledging.
Yeah,
some are, you know, but for the most part, most people have no idea.
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, you know, it's funny. It's the internet.
Yeah,
and so like for me, I intake content like what it is. Like it's internet.
Right.
And so like you believe it with what you know what I mean? Like but I always say too, like there are those that know. Right.
Right. But I bring people on I bring everyone on and I say, let my audience decide. Right. I leave it to them. I don't make their opinion. I don't decide for them. I say, listen, I let everyone on. Yeah. Let them all on. Yeah. But you decide who you want to. You pick and choose. It's like a buffet of information. Yeah. You pick and choose what you want to believe, what you want to take in, eat the meat, throw away the bones.
Yeah. Could I do a comparison with maybe like individuals that like a Joe Rogan has on? Similar,
similar, but Joe Rogan is not going to cover what I cover.
Yeah,
because he's already making the dollars and he's.
But that's kind of.
I'm not going to say compromise. I'm not going to go that deep. But he knows. He's staying within his lines. He's not. I'm scribbling outside the lines, dude. Okay, I'm going for it.
Okay, so you can tell us if there's aliens.
Absolutely.
You gonna tell us?
Well, that's what. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Okay, you really want to talk about that? So
let's get into it.
This is gonna be something you're not expecting, but this is the card the government's gonna play.
Okay.
So now you're seeing it already in the House hearings, right? People are coming out, whistleblowers coming out about aliens. That it's a card. It's an alien card. The 3-letter agencies, the CIA, is gonna use for this one world, new world order that they're getting ready to implement right now. The globalists are going to use this card like they use the pandemic. I better be careful. You might want to edit all this out, but they're going to be. This is the next card. So that's what they're conditioning the public for: is this alien agenda, this alien threat. They're going to call it a threat, and the plans that they have that are the two big ones: climate change and the alien threat. Those are going to be the two next big ones. The big thing that just happened in 2020 with this failed on them. They didn't complete it the way they wanted to. So now what's coming? They're getting real desperate. The walls are closing in. The vice grips are closing in on Biden right now. They're finding out all the dirty dealings that's happening in the Ukraine. The Burisma, Devin Archer coming out. The walls are closing in. So the thing that's happening in the House hearings right now, they're getting ready to do some panic moves. And so people need to be prepared for this because this is coming. Okay. So these panic moves, one of the cards they're going to play is the alien card. And they're going to say, what kind of technology are they going to use? Holographic technology. What can I go even deeper than that? Same stuff they use in 9/11. Right. Bro, it goes that deep. Okay. And I'm telling you, it's that deep. And so when you talk about that stuff, yeah, you're going to face some backlash. But if people do their own research and start really looking into this, they'll be like, man, we've been had this whole time. Everything's a lie. You know, you start realizing that everything. We've been lied to since the indoctrination camps, which I call the schooling systems.
It's the Matrix.
Exactly, which I think you're on board with. I can kind of see it.
You know what it is? And truthfully, like I said, my job is to intake as much information and content as possible just to stay aware of the landscape that we exist in as entrepreneurs in his space. And so we used to do a thing called Wealthy Wednesdays where we would go live on Twitter. Yeah, I know. We used to have that where we would go live.
I don't even know what day of the week it is. You sure you want me on your show?
I know. So we would go live. We would go live and we would go live on Twitter Spaces and he would take questions. Now Ryan's audience is more of that general entrepreneur to real estate, that space. And so, but oftentimes, you know, when you're on Twitter, Twitter used to be the Wild Wild West. They cleaned it up, but now it's starting to be, where we can have these
since
type
Elon
of,
took it back over. What is it, X now?
Yeah, X.
What is
right?
it? Just X or
it's just
Twitter?
X. It's just X now, the app. So yeah, we some of those conversations would come up, right? And it would be, for me, it was entertaining at most, right? It was like, at the very least, whether it's true and whether, like, I'm not like a conspiracy theorist, but I'll listen to one.
Well, you're saying, when you say you're a conspiracy theorist, they want to tag that as like nuts.
Yeah, they're trying to make
crazy guy. You wear a tinfoil hat. No, you just think.
Yeah, and
I'm think outside the box.
Yeah, and I'm aware too of how I've always been aware of how like Hollywood will work, right? And so to me, all of this is Hollywood, right? Like, I don't know what's true and what's not.
You're not going to convince me the moon landing was real. I'm that guy.
I don't know.
I don't think so. But go ahead.
So I take it for that, and I'm just willing to intake whatever. I just control what I choose to believe outside of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it's, for me, that's how people should operate.
Take as much information as you can to formulate your own opinion. That's why Nino's Corner.tv is, that for me is why I send people there, because I have everybody on with different perspectives.
Right.
And you decide. I'm not going to decide for you.
Yeah.
There's too many podcasters or people that are in my niche of the war in the deep state that are telling you the way it is. And it's like this.
Yeah.
I'm not like that. I'm like, you decide.
Yeah.
Let me just bring you the people and you decide. You're adults. I don't want to think for you. There's some people that say some outlandish shit. And I don't, I go with it, man. I just go, all right, well, obviously, I hope people are using discernment with this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But some people don't.
Yeah.
They don't use that discernment.
Yeah. So that's good. I like what you said, though, about why you created your own platform and are running it, that way, because you want to have your own stance. You want to be able to have who you want on. A lot of us, and when I say us, I'm talking about those that are on YouTube and on all these other social media platforms, are controlled by the platform, right?
I think this is the new Hollywood, bro.
Absolutely.
Podcasting is.
I've said that for a long time, bro.
Yep.
Like, this is what you're seeing, and when you're sitting and watching or listening to a podcast, is the new TV show.
100%.
Right? Like,
and Joe Rogan, that's the guy that kicked this off. He's the king of it.
He empired it.
You gotta give him the credit.
He empired it. That's absolutely, and that's why I brought him up, because I know that he is one to have conversations with everybody.
Yeah.
And he's mastered the skill of pulling information from people.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, I don't watch his interviews necessarily because I'm interested in who he has on. Most of the time, I don't even know who those individuals are, but I'm more interested in how he phrases his questions and does that. So I'm interested to hear, can you share some insight on, when you have these interesting guests, what does your preparation look like for the conversation?
Dan, the less I know, the better. Because
Okay.
I come to it as a child. I want to know. I want to go into every interview. Like, I want to just, and my audience actually appreciates that, because I ask, like, sometimes just the most obvious questions, but then they can elaborate on that and they can take it any which way they want.
Yeah.
And that's what, for me, has helped me in my podcast, because basically you're going to give someone enough rope to either swing off it or hang themselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's what they do. And you just let them go. Sometimes I let people just go and I just direct it. It's just like, just navigate the conversation like you're doing right now, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I do with my guests. Sometimes I'll just sit back and be like, well, this guy can talk.
Just going,
so I'm going to go ahead and just get, like, today. I had somebody on there that I was like, holy shit. Like, I turn the video off, we'll go walk around, you know what I mean, come back, and he's still going. I'm like, wow. But then you got to know when to interject and, like, how to play it. But I think some people, then you get the guests on there that just freeze and don't say much, and then you have to guide the podcast. So you got to be able to volley. You got to know when to play defense, offense. You got to know when to kick back. You got to know when to go forward. You got to gauge it with the guests, right?
Yeah, and that's what I say too. Like, when I give consult to people that are starting a podcast or kind of new into it, I always tell them the best podcasters are the best listeners.
Yes,
and they're able to draw from whatever the question they presented in the first place. So my goal is always like, hey, figure out how you can pull more from what they just said to you.
Yes.
Right? Don't just be looking at questions or have questions in your head and just throw them out. This isn't an interview. Right? I'm
exactly.
not interviewing him. I'm actually getting to know who David is.
Right.
While I'm also learning something.
Like we're
from
having
him.
a beer.
Yeah.
Like we're just hanging out at a bar having a beer. That's really how you approach it.
Yeah.
I tell everybody, sometimes I get some political figures on my show that I'm like, hey man, look, I'm not going to just be firing off questions at you. Just pretend you're having a beer with me at a bar.
Yeah.
And we're just talking.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh. And I'm like, yeah. like it's not. And these are people in DC
Yeah.
that come on my show, and I'm like, hey, no, really, this is. I don't want to look like you have a big stick up your ass. Let's just like talk and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how I like to approach it. I mean, let's pretend we have a cold beer and we're just letting this shit fly. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So when it comes to the different platforms, how do you approach each platform differently?
Yes.
Or okay, tell me
100%.
more about that.
Well, fringe content, deep state stuff is all Nino's Corner.tv. That's what people pay to see there.
Okay.
Stuff that I can't put on YouTube. YouTube is more like I'm gonna have Jim Brewer on next week, right? So he's a comedian, so that's gonna be funny, and I'm gonna talk about like Holly weird stuff. You know, Roseanne Barr wants. I want to talk to her in the next one about that stuff, but I just kind of YouTube is more tailored for anything goes except the fringe political stuff, which I get sick of talking about too. I don't like to always talk about that. That's tiring.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like I like to talk about like I want to start bringing people on that talk about plant medicine and things of that nature. I want to talk about people that have been down and out, alcoholics that have recovered. Like I also want to go that direction too. Self-help stuff. Surprisingly, it doesn't do as well as I thought it would on YouTube, but I'm still going to go for it. I mean, I like to experiment on there. I already got a pretty big audience. So I'm going to, they appreciate when I bring different personalities on and talk about different things and just politics. I mean, politics, come on.
I'm so glad you said that about experimenting because that is what we preach. Right? There is no secret sauce to making content. No. There's no secret sauce to growing on these social media platforms or any platform. There's no secret sauce. The only secret I can give is to be consistent.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's it. And so I always find it interesting when I hear other individuals like, yeah, this is what my plan is. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I'm kind of like, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work for you.
Plans never work, dude. Not for me.
Most videos that we see that have virality, that are doing great, we didn't plan on that. All right. It just, whatever
it just grew
happened
organically and took off by itself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so we always just tell people to just stay consistent, if you truly want to grow on these platforms. How long was it before you started to see, a response and growth on your platform?
Okay. So here's what's crazy. For me, it was immediate.
Yeah. Because you had a
viral video that hit, and that was like a real touchy subject. So when I talked about that, it was like, so that scared the crap out of me. I thought I was dead. So like, so I was dumping a cup of coffee in the backyard, and I was like maybe 3 months sober at the time, and I'm just still like kind of like the ground's still moving. I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Yeah. My dad just got put in the hospital. He was having a heart valve transplant. I mean, just it was just everything was a mess. Yeah. But I was newly sober, and I just was having a cup of coffee in my backyard, and I went on a Facebook Live. Okay. And just started talking about traffic kids and things like that, and stuff I can't say on YouTube because I know this, right? Yep. Okay, so I can't say it on there, but I can say that. And I remember, I thought I'd get about 3,000 to 10,000 views that was about normal average, at that time, And I turned the phone off and went inside, whatever, and then just checked through my Facebook that evening, and I was like, what? I looked at it, I was like 150,000 views. Wow. I was like, what is this? What's going on? And I didn't think about it. I turned it off. I was like, that's weird. I probably won't get much more than that. Yeah. Next morning I woke up, it had almost 600-something thousand views. And then that evening it had 1 million views. And then it just kept going. And I was like, all right, let's take it off now. Yeah, so I took it off Facebook, right? I took it off. People already copied and pasted it and translated it in different languages. No way. Yes. And then my phone was on vibration. I would leave it on the desk and it would go just all the notifications just going off. All my social media just started blowing up overnight. And it would fall off the table. I'd put it back on, it would buzz. And dude, really, I'm not going to lie to you. I got scared. Yeah. Because it was very sensitive stuff I was talking about. And it was very, I don't know who I pissed off. Yeah, I was about to say, it's going everywhere at that point. Cage. Like I just, I just pissed off every demon in hell, right? Yeah. With this stuff that I was talking about. Tunnels, driving kids, all that stuff. So I won't go into it in here, but it took off, right? It boom, it just exploded. So then for weeks, I was getting people, my friends were sending me videos. Dude, oh my gosh, I just saw your video. And I'm like, please stop, make this stop. I didn't like it. Yeah. And then I had to pray about it, and I was like, man, Lord, what do I do? What do I run from this, or do I embrace it? And people were calling me to go on shows. So I said, man, probably the best thing for me is to go on shows.
Yeah.
Just put myself out there.
Yeah.
So it was like Isaac Cappy stuff,
Yeah.
he was talking about. So
Wow.
I just went on shows, and then I went on the Brad Lee show.
Okay.
And then that, I think I got like 700, 600 something thousand views.
Oh.
And then it took off even more. And I was like, I'm really in it now.
You get it.
But at least now I feel like it's out there, and I'm out there, and hey, if something happens.
And this was what, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. 3
years ago?
3 years ago.
Okay.
Right shortly after I stopped drinking. So
Yep.
let's say 3 years and 5 months ago.
Yeah. Wow.
And so
one video.
Yeah, well, that was it. And then it just took off from there. And then I started going on different people's shows. And then I was like, I started learning how to work the microphone and learning how to work the computer, which I was like, I was
stuff you didn't have to do
dude.
before. Yeah.
I was like a jock. I was like a boxer. I didn't know. I looked at a computer. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So now I'm like learning the computer, learning this, plug in the mic, and it just organically grew. I didn't plan on any of it.
Yeah.
So when people say like they got their pad and paper and I'm like, dude, for me personally, just for me, I cannot speak for anybody else. It was completely organic, and it was just all, I can only say like by God.
Yeah.
But I also can't. I also have to say, like, is it coincidence or what is it that it all happened when I quit drinking?
Mm-hmm.
That's when it all took off for me. Right when I decided to sacrifice something and say, you know what, I'm done with that life. I'm over it. Then my life took off.
That's major. That's major. I hope everybody listening and watching don't miss that point, right? Like
That's a very important one.
The sacrifice. Right, is when you start to see a change, and for you specifically, that sacrifice not only like I can hear it in you. You say when I'm trying to figure out what to do, I pray.
I do pray every night.
Right, and so it's important to see that moment in your story as well.
I feel like whether you believe we live in a simulation or God is the engineer, the mathematical engineer of this simulation, or whatever it is, it's spiritual, and everything gets decided first in the spiritual realm before it manifests and materializes here in the 3-dimensional. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
So if you pray and you concentrate on God and you want something to happen, it's decided there first, and then it materializes here. That's how I look at it, and that's how I really live my life.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think and you said a few things that kind of resonated with me too. Just about having the one video that takes off that then ushers you into a new space of your life.
But then being able to capitalize on that and making it work for you, because it's one thing to get to the mountaintop, and it's another thing to stay there, make it work for you.
Yeah, and I think that's who, like, the individuals that will be listening and hearing this, they understand that they're working on a business, right? And they understand what it means to have influence around it, in your business, within your business. And so the value of that, though, and I got to ask you, how many times maybe did you go live before that video? How many videos were out before that?
It was, I already had a name in boxing, but it was just that niche. It was just boxing.
Yeah.
And I was already fading out of the sport. I was already done with the sport. So I was like, I went to nothing, dude. I was a hero to zero, like overnight. Right?
Yeah.
And so, I was just doing lives, and I was getting like just a few thousand views, just talking to friends and family and stuff like that. And I didn't care. But here's the thing. This is important. I did not care.
Right.
I did not want this limelight. I wasn't planning for it. I wasn't like, how am I going to orchestrate a viral video and then create a podcasting company? And none of that was ever planned out. I never planned to do any of this. So this really is something that happened organically. And I feel like people that out there, the more natural you are and the more you let things flow, happen for you. I don't know. Anytime I've really persisted something, it resisted. When I let it go, it came to me.
So what would be your advice to an individual who may just be starting, or have maybe they've done 100 videos or so, and they're still getting like 200 views on each video? What advice would you give them in order for them to stay consistent?
Consistency is always key, but don't look fake. Be natural. You cannot look like you're trying so hard, man. People can see right through that.
Yeah.
Like there's some people that I can't believe. Like, there's a guy on YouTube that I watch, and I can't remember if it's Joey B Tunes or Johnny B Tunes. You know what I'm talking about?
Not
and
sure.
he makes fun of like TikTokers and like Instagrammers. Like,
I've seen other creators like that. Yeah,
hilarious. He's got his own thing. I watch that guy constantly, but you just see how he points out how hard people are trying.
Yeah,
and it looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
So don't try that hard to where you expose yourself of looking that way. You know what I mean? I would say, for me personally, like I said, I'm an accident. I'm an anomaly. This wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't try for this. I was trying to be heavyweight champion of the world. And a lot of bad things happened in my life, and I sabotaged it. My life went down here, and then it shot back up in a different direction. I can't explain that to everybody. I wish I could. I wish I could. Well, here's my method to success. I can't explain it except that, and it may be very unpopular for people to hear, is that I had to give up alcohol. I had to give up some things, sacrifice some things, and I had a very firm belief in God. And I still do to this day.
Yeah.
I had a firm belief in God, and I just, and everyone take that how they want to, whatever your belief is.
Yeah.
But for me, I had to take some things out of my life and but it wasn't to get famous. It wasn't to be a podcaster or nothing like that. It was just to better my life. I just wanted a better life.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say authenticity will generate authority, and your consistency will give you every lead that you need.
You're right. Yeah.
Right. And that's what, and I truly believe that, right? Like I tell people that I consult and that I coach, if you get on the microphone and you get in front of the camera and you talk about what you know, you'll be just fine.
100%.
Right. Because the majority of what you know that feels like it's just a normal thing, like everybody should know this, a lot of people don't.
Right.
Yeah. And you're talking about 4 to 6 billion people on these platforms.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Yeah.
We believe in like that common sense is actually common.
No.
And that's just not a matter of fact,
not,
right?
Man,
and
no.
so I try to encourage people, like, don't go regurgitate what you hear other people say.
I agree with that.
And
100%.
Don't be an imposter.
Be an original.
Yeah.
Be an original. And that's what you see now. Everyone just following trends and just, that's what I can't stand. I can't stand that. So if you can be an original, be the first to do it. Like I said, what happened to me was a mistake, but I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't gunning for it, dude. That's what's so beautiful about this. And this is why I'm accepting this so much, is because I'm like, wow, this is something I wasn't expecting at all. Like, at all.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it's happened this way, and I'm in this niche, it is a niche. It's an important niche right now. What's happening in our world, in the government, politics, like that's very important. People need to know what's going on. But it's also leading to other things, and I'm just kind of letting it go. I'm not trying to restrict it or hurt it a certain direction. I'm letting it go and watering it and just clipping the plant. I'm just letting it grow on its own.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here on this podcast. Like, I felt like this is cool. It's something I want to do. It's a great conversation. It's nothing that I really planned. You know what I mean? The guy reached out to you and you said yes, and I'm going to be in Vegas anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I was like, that works. It actually worked. If I wasn't going to be here, we wouldn't be having this podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this is the value of it. All right. Like, this is the value. I get to meet and talk with people that I may not have in just a normal circumstance. And so I really still, again, appreciate you coming through. I do want to go a little bit deeper into faith. That is a big part of your story and your beliefs, as you expressed. Was that something that you always carried with you, or was there a moment or a story that you had where you found that?
I was an altar boy.
Okay.
All right. So I was raised in the Catholic Church. I was an altar boy. Raised in the faith. Was troublemaker, got kicked out of almost every school I went to, right? So, I mean, like, it was really bad.
Like a lot of altar boys. Right?
Yeah, I was bad, dude. I was really bad. I mean, I didn't show up to confession. I remember one time the priest sat me in there and he's like, all right, so how long has it been since your last confession? I was like, you tell me yours first. And he was like, just looked at me and he's like, all right, this kid's going to the office. So, I was just a bad kid, And so my faith just I've always been very faithful in God and never really, I kind of fell away from organized religion.
Okay.
I'm more like what's inside of me. I feel we're all connected. We're all connected to source. It's, what you feel in your heart is your truth. So I don't like to impose my beliefs on anybody. But I do believe there's one creator and it's a source that we're all part of. We're all part of this, whether we like it or not. Yeah. It's all part of, like, we're not a drop of the ocean. We're the whole ocean in one drop. That's how I see everything. And I think that we could be living in a synthetic reality. That's the master engineer of this whole reality is a mathematician, and it's God, that's due to plant medicine and many trips on my own spiritual experience,
Your own journey.
Yeah, my own journey. But I've also, one of my very closest friends and mentors in my life is Jim Caviezel.
Okay.
Who just did the movie Sound of Freedom.
Yep.
And he's like a brother to me. And I talked to him. Well, I haven't talked to him in the last week. I don't know what's going on, but he's been busy with the success of the film. but we've grown very close. I met him about 20 years ago, and he also had a big, I would say, influence on my faith. So he's a very strong religious Catholic man. You know, he's got a good family. He's the guy you would think would play Jesus Christ. Passion, right? Yeah. He's that dude. It's kind of like, I was like, oh, no one better than this guy. But I talk to him quite often, and we've grown very close. And he's had a lot of influence on my faith. Pulling the reins back in, and he till this day still has a lot of influence on my faith. And very good friend of mine, and I feel like when I was going through some troubles with my dad and when my sister died and things like that, he was there for me, and he had me praying the rosary and things like that. And all I can say is that it comforted me. Yeah. I felt bad. Everyone has their own methods or ways to deal with their faith. Yeah. Like I said, I don't push it on anybody, but for me, that's what worked for me.
I understand.
And not to say it'll work for anybody else. I'm just saying what worked for me. Some people just meditate, but for me, I think meditation is prayer, so
absolutely
people can take it how they want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think for and speaking for myself, I do have a standard because of what I believe. All right. And so there are, I haven't ran into them yet, but there are things that I will not
tolerate.
I just don't want to enter it into my space.
I get it.
Right? Like I like to protect me, when it comes to, and I like to protect my family when it comes to certain evils.
Especially when you have a family.
Yes. And so I do have a standard. Let me ask you, because you are, you're experiencing and having these conversations with so many different types of people.
Yeah.
And to me, that's very impressive. Like because of the niche I'm in, it may not necessarily make sense for me to talk to every single, individual, all these different. Yeah. But I love individuals that can do that and are successful at that. And so let me ask you, what is there a line, right? Is there someone that is like, I'm not talking to that individual, or I'm not? How do you feel about that?
No.
Yeah.
Bring it.
Yeah,
I'm bringing it.
I like that.
I like it. Let's just. I mean, it would be like me. Like, I'm not gonna fight this guy because his style is just too different. No, let's go.
Yeah,
let's go, man. Let's see this where the chips fall.
Yeah,
So I like to have and I don't. I'm pretty open about who I am to my audience. I'm like, I was a womanizer. I was a drunk. I did a lot of cocaine. I fought. I beat up people. I was pretty crazy. I was pretty crazy. And it didn't change until I stopped drinking. I can't believe how much I've changed. You know what I mean? But I don't hide from it. I am who I am. People will find out anyway, dude.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I don't hide from it. I don't hide from it.
Especially if, again, don't be an imposter.
No, dude. Like whatever, man. Do I have skeletons in my closet? Yeah. Guess what? So do you. Yeah. And so do you. So does everybody, dude. Yeah. So it doesn't, to me, I'm like, let's just all we all have faults. Yeah. Don't judge anybody from them. Just try to get along with everybody. So that's when someone comes on my podcast with a different perspective and I know I'm going to disagree with, I always say, all right, don't be an asshole. Just listen to this person and don't interject too much. Don't debate them. It's not a debate.
Right.
See their point of view, and then maybe throw some seeds out there to them. Like, well, have you thought about this? Yeah. Or like maybe
offer up a different perspective.
Yes.
But this isn't us going this isn't a battle between
dude. It's because everyone has their own experiences. There are some of their experiences. Yeah. Everyone has their own experiences to come whatever conclusion they have, and I'm not anybody to influence that. I can maybe give them some ideas or thoughts. But I don't walk in their shoes. They don't walk in mine. Yeah. So maybe just meet halfway and break bread.
I like that. That. That's for sure. For sure. I think too, if I was to go even further than that, because you are, your audience is growing continuously. Yeah. You have a large audience, and you even spoke earlier about, your hometown community and that aspect. Do you feel a sense of responsibility for the content you make?
No, because I feel like now this is going to sound brutal, but I mean, I already had so much expectations on me for boxing. And when I lost, it was like I was liberated.
It's a freedom.
Yeah, dude. I was liberated. I was like, I don't have to do this anymore.
Wow.
I don't have to impress anybody.
Yeah.
I don't care. I already put myself in the ring 40 times, and put my ass on the line. And now that's over. I don't have to. This is nothing. We're just talking. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
This is easy.
That's good. That's really good stuff. Who's someone that you were like, I would love to talk to that individual?
Growing up or just
now? Like you want to get them on your platform?
100% Trump.
Yeah.
100% Trump, because there's nobody that's taking the abuse that guy has. And the chess game that's being played right now is so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, bro, this is going to be, you're going to see, it's going to be really crazy.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. One thing about,
I had everyone else. I've had General Flynn. I've had, he's the only one, but I've talked to his son, Don Jr., but I think the war that we are in right now, watching this play out with the globalists, it's, dude, how can you not be invested in this right now? This is so, it's crazy. Yeah. It's wild.
And to me, too, he's another one that understood what influence can do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he just understands it, right? Like, I didn't take so literal everything that he said.
Right.
Like, that
no,
wasn't
he's talking at the person's level, people's level.
Like,
and he's just kind of like, here I am. And people identify with that.
Like, I was watching a clip on YouTube yesterday, and it was YG, the rapper YG, who made the song F. Donald Trump.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they were having the greatest conversation about him because he was like, he's the only person I haven't seen face to face. I wonder how he would react. And then the guy hosting the podcast goes, I'll tell you how he reacts. And he goes, what? He goes, that's a pretty good song.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Dude,
and I was like, yes, like, he understands that. And he was, the host was explaining as well. Like, he's the guy that walks into the room and talks like he already has met you.
Right. And then, what I noticed about him, what Trump does, it's a power move. Mm-hmm. He'll shake your hand and he'll pull you into him.
Hold it, yeah.
He'll pull you into him.
Yeah.
And that's a power move.
Yeah. He's also like 6.
Well, I mean, but he studies the art of war. He understands how to,
He knows how to leverage.
Right. And you don't become a billionaire. And I don't care if his dad gave him his first $1 million, $5 million, $10 million. I don't care. He made it billions.
Yeah.
That says a lot about that man.
Yeah.
I know people that cannot make, a dime from a dollar, dude. You know what I mean? It's true. So it's like, to me, it's like, you got to respect that. And that's the type of guy we have to have in office right now with the mess that this dude's creating. Yeah. This is a horrible situation.
And I always say it. I was like, even if you dislike him, you have to respect what he brings.
I don't want to like him.
Yeah, like, you have to respect what he brings too.
It's not a personality contest. It's not, it's the same thing in boxing. When I used to get in the weigh-ins, and I'd get in there to be a guy built like Atlas, 8-pack and stuff. And I'd look at him and go, man, I'm going to go right through that 8-pack, dog.
Yeah.
I tell him like that. And I would have a little bit of a lonja, and they look at me like, it's not a beauty contest. I'm not trying to win the weigh-in.
Right.
I'm not trying to win the weigh-in.
Right.
And every time, like clockwork, it would be right when you start, bam, hitting that hammer in that body, those guys that were chiseled, that's it.
Yeah.
They don't take body shots as well as a fat guy.
Yeah.
The fat guy, you lose your hand in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the guy that's ripped, man, they crumble like that. Just it's because you're going right through that grit and that muscle. Boom, you're penetrating that, and it just locks up on them.
Yeah.
And I was never trying to win the weigh-in.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. That's so interesting. So, I'm not gonna hold you too long, obviously, but I got a few more questions for you.
Ahead,
I want to ask these.
Fire away, man.
Because I want to know, with all the people that you've talked to, what's one thing that kind of blew your mind? I believe that when individuals intake this much information all the time from all these different angles, that they can become desensitized to like newer information and like the wild information that nobody would know. Give me a story of a conversation you had that kind of, it kind of surprised you and kind of threw
private or public?
That's up to you. I'll take both.
Well, because I get a lot of private conversations with people that are like.
Well, I want you to be able to share it. I don't want you to get in any.
So the hard part for me is not being able to share that.
Yeah.
So for me, like having public conversations with people that think they know what's going on, and I know kind of like I'll know a little more than them, but I got to pretend like or I got to like entertain their perspective, and I have to hold back. That's hard.
Okay.
Because that's when you're like, ooh, like, oh man, but then you don't want to dominate the conversation because I'm interviewing that person.
Yeah.
Or I'm having a podcast with that person where they're sharing their ideas. So I don't want to interfere with that or get in the way of that. So I have to hold back and restrain myself, and that's hard.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing. So for me, that's very hard. But like nothing really, I'll be honest with you,
nothing
really blows my mind. I mean, seriously, I can talk about anything.
Yeah.
I just had this Ollie kid on that's like a transgender, and he turned into a Korean kid, and then he turned back into like he turned into a Korean woman, and then he flipped back over to something else, and I was like, okay, where can I take this conversation? Do I agree with him, his lifestyle and all that? No, I don't. But where can I take this? And I started dissecting the podcast, and I was like, or before I interviewed him, I was like, I bet you this kid's been bullied quite a bit. So have I. So let's find some middle ground there and talk about that. So I went with that, and it turned into a beautiful podcast.
Wow.
You know, and it was just really, he opened up to me, and he let go a lot of information that I wasn't expecting, but we found middle ground, man. So I had to find middle ground with that guy.
Yeah.
You know, that was hard.
Yeah. That means you can find middle ground with anybody. Yeah.
So to me, it was like, so the fact that he kind of opened up and like, he turned out to be a great guy. I talk to him every now and then on Twitter, you know, and he's an unbelievable human being.
That's awesome.
But I found that middle ground. So like finding that middle ground can be a challenge.
Yeah.
But to me, I think that's what's so great about having these conversations is that, like, I didn't know who you were before I walked in this room. Yeah. Now I'm kind of like, oh, this guy's a cool guy. He's a really nice guy. Like,
appreciate it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, no, that's how it goes. And it is about sitting down and having that conversation.
Like, I didn't know you from anybody before coming in here, and now I've talked with you, an hour already? And it's like, I don't ever talk to people that long. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you wouldn't
do that otherwise.
No.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that is the power of it. Like right now in our programs, Wealthy Creator and Pineda Media, we are encouraging those individuals that are just doing like short form content to get into podcasting.
Dude, this is the new everything. I mean, I don't watch TV shows. I don't watch Netflix. Yeah. I watch podcasts. Yeah.
And it's really the encouragement because one, they're going to learn more. They're going to find business partners and relationships from these longer form, these longer form pieces of content. And then you can still cut shorts from this all day long. You're right. Right. Like, so you're not really losing anything. You're just taking the time to actually sit with someone different or even virtually sit with someone different. And, because that's something that you do a lot. You do virtual podcasts.
That's all I do, man. Yeah. I have friends that have studios like you guys. I can't do that. Yeah. I don't want to do that. I can't get the person to leave.
Yeah. And this is another example, though, of how that can be just as effective as having the in-person experience.
Right.
So,
right.
It's very good to see. I do. I always, I'm a sociology, criminology major.
Oh, good.
And so I pay a lot of attention to like body language and stuff like that.
So what is this telling you?
So this is telling you to wrap it up. Now I'm just joking. No, I'm joking. But I did notice your pendants, and I wanted to ask you: is there stories behind it looks like a round and a tag?
Float like a butterfly, hit like a truck.
Nice. That's nice.
and it means something to me. It's also some friends that I've lost.
Gotcha.
It just reminds me to keep delivering the truth in the sense that I do it, which is like for me, my podcast, because it's no longer boxing, right? So I can't get in the ring and knock people out anymore. So now it's like I got to be smooth, move, dance, ba 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 ba, and boom.
Yeah.
Hit him with that truth.
That's good.
That's what this means to me now.
That's good.
And that's that bullet to the soul right here. Like, this is like the bullet of truth right there.
That's so good. That's so good. I appreciate you, man. I do have one last question to ask you. Tell me though, what does the future look like for you and your platforms and your space?
That's unknown. I can have hopes and dreams that I want to keep growing. I want to step out of my niche. I want to start doing some bigger shows. I feel like I have a hell of a story to tell people, my audience or anybody's audience, about hope and like never give up. Because I gave up. Yeah. Like, dude, it was not like I was about to give up. I always had that little bit of faith in me. But I was done. Yeah. Like I was ready to call it a day.
Good.
In a lot of ways. And the fact that I got delivered out of that, I have a big story for anyone who wants to listen, that don't ever give up. Life is an amazing ride, man. And it's just like, dude, it's like anything can happen. It's incredible. Anything can happen. It's like they always say you don't want to stay too long in the casino, right? Like, but for me, I knew when to win big. I won big and walked out, and it's like now I'm like just living my life and I'm enjoying it. It's like I can't believe that my life has turned around like this, dude. It just really is an incredible thing, and I think it can happen to anybody. Because if it can happen to me, I promise you, it can happen to anybody, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm like this, It's just it's redemption.
Yeah.
Redemption, really. Yeah. And here's another thing. I got a tattoo right here of a phoenix when I was going to come back from boxing, when I got sliced and everything, I thought my life was over. I was like, I got a tattoo of a phoenix right
Mhm.
on my shoulder here
Mhm.
that I'm going to come back in boxing and I'm going to come back from the ashes.
Yeah.
That's not how it happened.
Yeah.
It happened completely different, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That's how you would rise from the ashes. The phoenix would come back, a rebirth from your destruction.
Mhm.
So I witnessed my destruction. I went through my destruction, and I came back something else. I'm podcasting. I would have never guessed in a million years this would be what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here it is. So anything can happen.
That's
Really,
good.
anything can happen.
That's good. Well, I appreciate you, man. You want to tell everybody where they can find you and all the platforms that you're on?
Well, YouTube is Nino's Corner. Everything's pretty much Nino's Corner. Twitter's Nino Boxer. And Nino's Corner.tv. If you want to start diving deep into the underbelly of the deep state war, that's where you go.
All right. Appreciate you, David, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Jesse.
All right. It's been another episode of What's the Creator Podcast. Thank you. Be sure to subscribe. Sure to follow all the pages. Look forward to seeing you next time.